Government is arguing that there was a sustained and violent mob outside of the federal building, sustained for an hour, I believe a lawyer said. Jacob, you were there outside of the federal building. Is that what you saw?
No, and honestly, it is a preposterous allegation. I was standing there in between the protesters and the National Guard, and there was nothing but peaceful interactions. It was definitely tense, particularly when the National Guard and the Marines who were standing at the front of the building walked down with their shields to push people off of the steps. But the assertion, at least from my vantage point, I am one person and one journalist. I was there for many hours over the course of the day as these protests unfolded on Saturday. I did not see anyone throw concrete blocks at the federal building. I did not see an attempt, as Brett Shumate, who was arguing for the government, the U.S. Assistant Attorney General, was saying that people tried to actually get inside this building, that people were trying to harm officers. On the contrary, I had conversations, many of them live on this very network, with peaceful protesters talking very cogently and specifically about the fact that they were there to protest the presence of the Guard and the Marines while I was out there on Saturday. The idea that a quote-unquote threat needs to be countered because there was a sustained ongoing mob violence this past weekend, 1,000 people, it just couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not saying that there haven't been altercations between police, local law enforcement, and the protesters, and that people haven't been injured, and that it hasn't been very contentious at times. I'm also not contesting that when those initial ICE raids played out on Friday, there weren't people who were engaged in skirmishes with the federal law enforcement officers. But the idea that the federal building over this particular weekend, I'm not talking about Friday when people first showed up at the federal building, but this particular weekend, as the Trump administration is arguing in court right now, was under some sort of siege from violent protesters. There were 20,000 peaceful protesters in the streets of L.A., a group assembled outside the federal building, the Metropolitan Detention Center, to protest the presence of the National Guard and the Marines, but it was not violent. And I can tell you that, because I was there, I watched it with my own eyes, and I witnessed it as a reporter.